have reached the Mike Wiley Show. This call may be recorded for training purposes, or because Bill Clinton enacted the Echelon domestic spying program in 1993 on all American citizens that Democratic senators had no problem with because Democrats only have problems when you spy on terrorists. For English, press 1. For Spanish, press 2. For French, press 3. For Austrian, press 4. For domestic terrorism, contact Bill Ayers at the White House switchboard. For treason, contact Barack Obama at the White House switchboard. For surrender, contact Hillary Rodham Clinton at the White House switchboard. For military intelligence, contact the editor of Rolling Stone magazine. For income tax avoidance, contact Timothy Geithner on his cell phone. And for today's joke of the day, contact Joe Biden directly at 811. To repeat this menu, press 9. For Mike Wiley, press number 6.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
Faster than a speeding typewriter. More powerful than a printing press. Able to speak over tall buildings in a single sound. Look, up on the dial!
It's a conservative! It's a liberal!
It's Supermouth! Yes, it's Supermouth, strange visitor from the past with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal talk show hosts. Supermouth, who can change the course of local politics, bend ears with his bare mouth, and who, disguised as Mike Wiley, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan radio show, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
So here's an article by some woman named Arisia Hrutka. And she's doing research on the aid for Ukraine. And she says, not all of the $54 billion that the U.S. provided in congressional assistance bills to Ukraine during 2022 is actually for Ukraine. Really? A substantial amount is directed outside the country. So the question is, outside what country? Is she talking about Ukraine? Is it outside the country of Ukraine, or is it outside the country of the United States? What she's saying is, it's outside the country of Ukraine. So the United States is spending $54 billion saying it's for Ukraine, but only $19 billion is assigned for security assistance. And of this $19 billion, or $12.7 billion, has already been sent to Ukraine. U.S. aid has increased substantially during 2022, when Lord Obama is president and leader. Everyone just thinks it's Puppet Joe, the brain dead. So this got me to thinking, where's the rest of the money? If $54 billion is not actually being spent in Ukraine, and it's only like $19 billion, where's the other $35 billion going? Huh? Who else is robbing our piggy bank? Who's robbing our piggy bank? None of this makes sense. The only thing I can tell you is we have this piece of shit named Joe Biden who has gotten $3 billion and more from China. And we know he's got deals with Ukraine because his son gets money all the time from Ukrainian oil industries. So does Romney's child. So does Pelosi's son. You know, so there's people in the Congress that are Democrat and Republican tied to Ukraine for some reason I don't know yet. Found out today. But I was starting to get puzzled. I mean, let me ask you a question. When you get your paycheck and you decide you're going to spend $50 on food, you pretty much know what you're going to buy. When the United States spends $54 billion, you kind of don't know what the hell they're paying for, do you? Well, you got to get ready. I hope you're on to your second or third drink, because I'm about to piss you off big time. Because it pissed me off, put me in a bad mood, because I hate being robbed. So this article then goes on to say, during 2022, the aid to Ukraine is being provided under the Ukraine Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2022, anticipating $13.6 billion in the additional Ukraine Supplemental Appropriations Act, anticipating $40 billion in emergency funding to support the Ukrainian people and defend global democracy. Use that word, global democracy. What it means is to defend global fascism. There's no such thing as democracy, it's fascism. But they can't say fascism. Well, actually they can. They can go ahead and attack the Prime Minister of Italy who says that people are for God, family, and country, and they say she's a fascist. Out of the $53.6 billion assigned in these two acts, $19 billion was anticipated for security assistance to Ukraine, and an additional $4 billion was assigned to split between Ukraine and other countries. So, when did all this start? Well, let's see. The proxy war started in 2014 when the maiden coup engineered by the United States. Who was president in the United States in 2014? 2014, Barack Obama. That's right. And what is in Ukraine that Ukraine denies, but the Russians are always telling us that they're there? And that's, of course, these chemical factories, these chemical biological testing places, like about 12 or 15 of them. I truly believe they exist because there's some shit going on in Ukraine and we aren't being told the whole truth about, but we do know if the Democrats are involved, they're asking us to bend over and shove it up our ass. So it took place in Ukraine, removing the democratically elected president and putting ultra-nationalists largely in control. Ultra-nationalists, I think they mean Nazis, right? Because there's this issue in Ukraine with Nazis. The immediate result, though, was that Ukraine began to break apart. U.S. proxy war on Russia. So Obama started it. And then what happened was the Russians then invaded right afterwards, and they went and took Crimea. Oh, I get it now. So Obama starts a war with the Russians over Ukraine for what reason? What reason? I mean, come on. Why could we possibly want to go to war in Ukraine? Why do we want to fight the Russians or let them? Why do we give a shit about Ukraine? So I'm trying to figure out, I'm sorry, I've been around a while, okay? I've watched these bastards for years. I wrote a book about them called The Diary of Hitler's Right-Wing Conspirator, and that just covered 4 or 5 years of what I was going through and finding out. So let me read this to you. Ukraine is the largest country entirely in Europe. And the reason why they say entirely in Europe, because half of Russia is not in Europe, it's in Asia. But the part of Russia that's in Europe is not bigger than Ukraine. And the world's 46th largest with a total area of 230,062 square miles. Excluding Crimea, which is currently claimed by Russia because Russians live in Crimea, the population of Ukraine is approximately 42 million people, making it the 32nd most populous country in the world. Its largest and capital city is Kiev, located in the north-central part of the country. That's nice. The country was a key economy in the former Soviet Union. Think about that, okay? You got to remember, communists are as dumb as Democrats. Come from the same group of idiotic thinking. And so they destroyed everything. Matter of fact, Stalin got pissed off and decided to starve 6 million Ukrainians to death. It's just normal play for communists. So they were key to the Soviet Union, and now the Russians can't have them. It is classified by the World Bank as a middle-income country. Middle-income country. Is the United States a middle-income country? Or is it not because we keep allowing poverty-stricken illegal immigrants by the millions every year into this country? Well, here we go, folks. Ukraine has rich reserves. Yeah, rich reserves. Of natural resources, naturally, which are considered key to its economic growth. Really? So if we had, let's just say, if we had an American running this country, an American, not some Kenyan, Indonesian scumbag puppet master. Let's say we had a real American running this country. Do you think we'd be producing more oil than we are now? Do you think we would have been draining our strategic supply when we produce more than anybody else? It doesn't make sense. Oh, I get it now. There's this scam called climate change, and climate change is the reason why we have to have all these electric cars that aren't going to do shit. But China makes tons of electric cars, and China makes tons of products for some fools to get their country to drop their biggest natural... Folks, this has nothing to do with solar energy. This has nothing to do with windmills, okay? The windmills are for the idiots in this country to go, oh, it's not pretty. We're saving everybody but the birds. There's natural resources in Ukraine. Who wants them? America doesn't want them because we've got plenty and we're not allowed to use them. We need to hurry up and get an American running this country pretty quick. We had an American run the country, but our enemies didn't like that. And of course, wait till we get to this next thing. So the country was a key economy in the former Soviet Union. Ukraine has rich reserves of natural resources, which are considered key to its economic growth. However, corruption and mismanagement of resources have slowed the exploration of some of these natural resources. Corruption? Mismanagement? Hey, let's keep investing in that country. Huh? Hey, here's $10 million. Go blow it at the track. Then call us and we'll give you more money. No, we're not going to use this. Only if they come to pull me out of this chair while I'm doing this show. We're going to povertize these people. So here's an overview of natural resources in Ukraine. Pay attention, folks, because now you're going to know why all our money has to go over to Ukraine and we get it shoved up our ass. Ukraine has a wide variety of natural resources. The natural resources of Ukraine can be divided into three main groups. Door number one, door number two, and door number three. Door number one, energy resources. Door number two, metal ores. And door number three, non-metal ores. Although it accounts for only 0.4% and 0.8% of the Earth's land surface and world's population respectively, the country has approximately 5% of the world's mineral resources. Ukraine is a gold mine. Over 20,000 deposits of 194 known minerals can be found in Ukraine. Of these deposits discovered, 7,800 deposits of over 90 hold important industrial minerals. Ukraine has one of the leading reserves in extraction of manganese, iron, and non-metallic raw material. The deposits can be found in different regions across the country. Here are some of the major natural resources of Ukraine. This resource is useless. Coal. Who uses coal? We don't use coal because we're going electric. Even though you need coal to make electric power, we can't understand that concept. I know the Chinese love coal. Matter of fact, Barack Obama, I found, had made a real good deal one day when he shut down West Virginia's coal mines. Remember? Remember that? When he screwed over the people from West Virginia in favor of the people of Indonesia, his home country? they began shipping coal to China instead of West Virginia. That was some big money that West Virginia was getting. But Barack Obama don't like white people. He don't. Especially when they talk like this. So coal is a main fossil fuel raw material whose reserve can meet the demand for energy and industry in Ukraine for the next 5 years. 50 years. 500 years. Ukraine has 500 years of coal. Do you think you're going to go to electric cars? It is the largest hydrocarbon fossil resource of Ukraine, accounting for 95% of the fossil resource. Ukraine has the world's 7th largest and Europe's 2nd largest coal reserve at about 34 billion tons. Other sources have estimated the reserves to be approximately 115 billion tons. Okay, very good.
What else do they have, Mike? So they got coal, what else?
Let's see. Ooh, they have oil and natural gas. What a coincidence. Ukraine was estimated to hold over 1.1 trillion cubic meters of natural gas reserves in 2004. I'm going to stop here. They got iron ore, they got manganese, they got other major resources of Ukraine. I think you get the picture, okay? Ukraine is this gold mine of natural resources. Who wants it? Somebody wants it. Somebody wants Ukraine. And it ain't the Russians. Because the Russians have plenty of oil. The Russians have plenty of coal. They get plenty of these ores. The Russians don't need Ukraine's resources. Interesting. And you know, Ukraine is also one of the largest growers of food. And we know that there's this one country that forbids anyone to attack the United States, because if America was attacked, nuclear attack, and destroyed all our farm fields, Chinese people are going to starve. The Chinese are going to starve. I bet. I'm just guessing here, okay? I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing that it's China. China wants Ukraine. China is tied to a guy who's also tied to Ukraine. His name is Joe Biden. China also has money and they're in the pocket of the guy who's running our country, Lord Obama, who ran it for 8 years, and China made out great. China got $85 billion in military equipment. They got Bagram Air Force Base. I mean, we've been screwed, blued, and tattooed, thanks to Lord Obama, for the Chinese. My guess is we're in Ukraine for the Chinese. Okay? But who knows that? Who knows that? You didn't know it, did you? You didn't know it until I told you. Anybody else cover this? Anybody else exposing this shit? You know why they're not exposing this shit? Because they don't want to get taken off the air like they did to Mikey in 1995. Mike, you have to come off the air. You're telling people too much shit we don't want them to know. We want them to stay stupid. Okay. Take a sip of your alcohol, because I'm about to blow you out of the water. Who's getting on the gravy train? Let me ask you a question. How much does it cost when you put 10 Republican senators in a room? $35 billion? Is that how much it costs? The answer to that is yes. See, the other $35 billion of the 50 is actually being spent in the United States. Thanks to these 10 Republican senators. 117th Congress, Second Session, Senate Bill 3811. Making supplemental appropriations for assistance and activities related to Ukraine and for other purposes. In the Senate of the United States, March 10th. Mr. Scott of Florida, Republican. Ms. Loomis of, I believe, Wyoming, Republican. Mr. Marshall, I think he's from Kansas, Republican. Daines, Montana, Republican. Cotton, Arkansas. Boozman, Arkansas. Ms. Blackburn, Tennessee. Ernst from Iowa. Grassley from Iowa. And Mr. Sullivan from Alaska. 10 Republicans introduced the following bill, which was read twice and referred to the Committee on Appropriations. So in other words, if Lord Obama wants to send $19 billion to keep the Russians from taking Ukraine so their buddies the Chinese can get it, because I'm telling you what's going to happen. I mean, understand. What's the purpose of destroying Ukraine? So the Chinese can come up and rebuild it. So, I'm just going to read a few of these things that the Republicans wanted in order to give Obama his money. This act may be cited as the Ukraine Supplemental Appropriations Act 2022. Isn't it amazing? Have you ever seen the United States appropriate taxpayer money for another country specifically? The following sums in this act are appropriated out of any money in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022. See, they got that in before the year ended, because the government's year ends September 30th and the new one started today. Can you imagine? Imagine one day God says, Mike, I want you to go to Washington, D.C. and fix the budget. And everybody will approve what you come up with. Oh, they should do a movie about it. Not Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Mr. Wiley goes to Washington. Boy, I'd chop the shit out of all the money they take from us. But of course, they can because they violated the law in 1913 by passing the 16th Amendment. They would never have been able to spend $110 trillion without having that. Actually, 80 trillion. 30 trillion they didn't have the money for, so they borrowed it. I'm just going to go over a couple more of these because it's just... Department of Justice. Get rid of this one's going to be good. Department of Justice, legal activities. Salaries and expenses, general legal activities. For an additional amount, for salaries and expenses, in other words, we're going to give the FBI $9.7 million to remain available until 2023 to respond to the situation in Ukraine. Hello? Yeah, I'm here in Ukraine and I need help. Can you send the FBI over? I know you're not doing shit in the United States. Come over to Ukraine. Because we just got paid you. We just paid for you. Yeah, but it wasn't our money. It was your money. Yeah, the U.S. taxpayers paid for us, for you. Get over here. Gotta remember I was a radio guy. Radio is theater of the mind. For an additional amount for salaries and expenses, United States attorneys, $5 million to remain available for Ukraine and related expenses. National Security Division, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The FBI gets $43 million to remain available until 23 to respond to the situation in Ukraine and for related expenses. So if you're calling up and you need help, tell them you're in Ukraine. Otherwise, they don't get this money. Including to enhance the capacity of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Voice America, and Voice of Go Fuck Yourself. That's it. I can't do anymore. Did you get the message? 10 Republican senators, okay? 10 Republican senators. Put this shit together. It's 25 pages of economic support for everyone but Americans, unless those Americans work in the government. And why is that? Because the government is not the country. The government is not God. The government is not family. The government is government. We are at war with our government thanks to a fifth column of Democrats and Republicans doing their job for China. At least the Democrats and the Republicans are playing nice. And they're spending all the money we haven't made yet. I hope this gets your goat. The corruption in our country that no one talks about is so severe. We need to do something about it. I want to see Lord Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Biden sitting in the. Of course, Biden won't know where he is, but I'm sitting somewhere in Gitmo. Wave, send people for free to wave hi to Obama and laugh at him. See, there's documentation I found where the governor of Michigan and the secretary of state of Michigan were in on the deal to switch for the ballots, because that was the fix. It wasn't the Dominion machines, okay? It was the ballots. It was the ballots. We saw those people running them through the machines over and over again to make up for all the people that didn't exist and vote. They weren't matching signatures. That was the whole part of the fix, was that they were instructed not to match up the signatures. Because if they matched up the signatures, millions of votes wouldn't have counted and Trump would be president. It was a major scam from beginning to end. And the worst part is they killed 1 million Americans to do it. Okay, they started getting these deals done in March of 2019, a whole year before COVID hit. But COVID had to hit. COVID had to kill 1 million Americans so that we'd be fearful enough to want to do mail-in ballots. And the interesting part is, when you look at the ballots, the absentee ballots are like 85% Biden, 15% Trump. When the rest of all the other voting is 45, 45 or 49, 50, close. Trump, it was those missing ballots, those absentee ballots. That was the scam. That was the fraud. I'll prove enough of that and get the documentation set up for you, and that will be on my website. So if you want to go after people, okay, and all you have to do is have proof that you voted. If you have proof that you voted, then you're a damaged party. And they damaged you on the 9th Amendment. The 9th Amendment, okay, you have a right to free elections under the 9th Amendment. Why? Because I said so. And if you read the 9th Amendment, it covers everything that's not specifically mentioned in the Constitution. These are our rights, not theirs. I love you. Be good. Talk to you next week. Bye.